What's good? Guys, this book, I just finished reading it yesterday. I'm not even doing any introductions here. This book, please, 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 there's something in my eye. Please, 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 read this book. Oh my goodness. This book, I feel like I've read a lot, and I mean like a lot of books. I've read at least 3 to 4 books per month so far this past year, between January and now. Of everything that I've read, and I've read things from like between like romance to thrillers to nonfiction, like literally everything under the sun. This is the best book I've read so far. And I know, like, I don't know if there's any scrutiny around this book. I didn't really do much research into other people's views on it. But, and also, I also know that this is a difficult read. For some, it can be because it does have some triggering topics. But I feel like for me, this was so easy to read because I felt like it was written for me. Like, everything talked about. I was like, this is me, this is how I think. And I'm going to digress because there is a lot of stuff mentioned in here, like, you know, of the main, because this is like a semi-autobiographical book, like, not a full autobiography, but it takes from the author's real life, but kind of welds it in a more fictional context. There are some things that, like, the main person in this, who's speaking in the book, it's split into 3 notebooks, that he does, like, he's like a raging alcoholic, like, he becomes a raging alcoholic. He has like multiple like wives and affairs. He's a cartoonist and ends up devolving into drawing some very not, HR conscious stuff. So, and also a lot of like, there's a lot of certain things, like his beliefs about women and stuff are a lot questionable, but I'm looking at this more in like the context of the way he almost like thinks, and his view of human beings is just like, I understand it so much. I actually annotated a couple things, but you guys, this book, oh my gosh, I love this book. Let's see, this is what I wrote last night when I finished it. Let's see if it still adds up. Hands down, this might be the best book I've read all year. Genuinely, from the moment I opened it to now, I knew this book was basically written for me. And yes, I know there's a lot of bad stuff about women and a lot of terrible things that I don't support. But the way he described the alienation and the feeling of never belonging, always wearing a mask and always being in this perpetual state of misery spoke to me so much. I felt seen for once in this, and the way he writes of addiction and how it worsens, fueling the cycle of misery and piling wrongdoings is just insane. I do agree with that still. I know this is supposed to be a difficult read, but I felt like I breezed through it because I felt the same way. Yeah. And yeah, actually, like, obviously the way he devolves into the alcohol addiction is crazy and not good. But the way the addiction is written is very relevant in my eyes. Because he writes it as this cycle that only fuels the misery, that once again fuels the need to relieve the, for him, the alcohol. For others, it can be different. But I feel like the not feeling like you belong anywhere and not fully understanding how humanity functions is so real in this. Let's see. Time to find some quotes. I didn't start annotating until the second notebook. Yeah. One might attribute this perhaps to the fact that my clowning had by this time become so much a part of me that it was no longer such a strain to trick others. And so throughout the book, he kind of invents this, like, he kind of compares himself to a clown in the way he wears a mask. Like, it's like clowning, like he's supposed to be like amusing and funny and like no one suspects it. And I think, like, if we put this in a more modern context, you can kind of look at the funny friend or the critical friend, that friend who's kind of always just making you laugh and whatnot. And also, like, his worst fear is being discovered, like, is that his clowning is discovered as fake, because he knows that it's fake, but he's found a couple, like, he interacts with a few people who had, like, saw through him and was like, yo, you're doing this on purpose. And that scared him so much. And I'm like, that is so real. Like, trying to make all these things look trying to just make it look like you're keeping your shit together and make it look unintentional, like you just, like, are totally fine. And then someone seeing through it, that is terrifying. He also, like, you can see throughout the book, there's just a lot of signs of just, like, depression and just, like, the general depression, anxiety, and whatnot. Let's see. Oh, and the guy in this book also, he wanted to be, like, a painter earlier, like, we read about that. It obviously devolves into something pretty gross. But the way he talks about kind of how the artist's mind functions is actually really cool. The masters, through their subjective perceptions, created beauty out of trivialities. They did not hide their interest even in the things which were nauseatingly ugly, but soaked themselves in the pleasure of depicting them. In other words, they seemed not to rely in the least on the misconceptions of others. Real. As a certified artist who, like, who won awards for her art, which, like, obviously is cool. Like, I got a scholarship this past year for one of my art pieces, which is obviously amazing. But I look at that art piece and I'm kind of just like I look at a lot of my pieces and I kind of just like, I feel like I made this to appease an audience as opposed to making it because I wanted to actually do it. And I've been trying to start painting more things that, and like you can kind of see the background right here, like things that are a little more abstract and kind of weird. Because I've always been interested in, like, as he describes, things that are, like, nauseatingly ugly. But I never felt like I had, like, the balls to paint that or do anything with it. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my paintings don't really reflect anything I believe in. Except for, like, maybe there's, like, 2 or 3 of them that I'm actually proud of. But a lot of them I was like, this will appease, A, my art teacher, and B, like, whatever audience, I was going for at the time. Ooh, wow, guys, look at this. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I wrote a lot. Also, if you notice, there's things highlighted in purple. These are words that I like to do this when I read sometimes. I'll highlight words that I don't, like, know, so I can look them up later. This is, like, the realest thing I think he wrote in this entire book. Actually, no, there's a few others. I was afraid to go into a restaurant because I was intimidated by the waiters furtively hovering behind me, waiting for my plate to be emptied. Most of all, I dreaded paying a bill. My awkwardness when I handed over the money after buying something did not arise from any stinginess, but from excessive tension, excessive embarrassment, excessive uneasiness, and apprehension. My eyes would swim in my head, and the whole world would grow dark before me, so that I felt half out of my mind. That last bit, like the eyes swimming in the head and feeling like half out of your mind. Oh my gosh, guys. It's me. It's literally me. Because no matter a lot of situations, and I find this a lot more now because I'm kind of in a point in my life where I'm like not doing the best, but more just trying to figure it out. You kind of just always feel like you're doing something wrong and embarrassing, no matter what you're freaking doing. Like paying a bill or buying a book at Barnes and Noble. Like I always feel like I've messed up. Every human interaction I've ever had, I'm always like, okay, I messed this up. Somehow, some way, they hate me now. And just the fact that no one really will ever know the extent to your personality or who you are, except for you. Wait, hold on, that didn't make sense. No one will really know the extent to which you are, except for you, because you're the only one who can go inside the big man upstairs. But I think that's so crazy that only you really know yourself. No one, people can get really, really close, but no one, like, will actually ever really, really, truly know everything about you, you know? Yeah. Sometimes I just feel like I'm in, like, this perpetual state of dissociation from literally all of reality. I know that's not a good symptom. Guys, I promise I'm okay, for the most part. And just always feeling like you're looking inside your head and you're never actually in your body and in the moment you're physically in. And I don't know, do you ever just feel like you're always in your brain? Like you're looking, not even physically looking, but you're just like, your consciousness always is in here and it's never out here or out there. Like literally I can dissociate and like fall into trances for hours of just thinking and thinking. Like I can get so lost in my brain. And it's literally what this whole book is. It's just this guy getting lost in his head as he slowly devolves into and like this addiction, and eventually obviously gets thrown in an asylum, but that's later. Like sometimes I'll forget to breathe. Like I like will be like you gotta like taking that sudden breath because my body needs oxygen, but I'm so lost in my head that I forget, or like forgetting to blink or literally do anything. Yeah, this is what I mean by this guy was made for me. Like this was made for me. Okay. No, that's just, licking your wounds. We all do that. Like when you have a wound and then like it becomes like part of you and you almost like it now, like because of how much it served you. I was impatient to leave her while things still stood the same before I got wounded, and I spread my usual smoke screen of farce. Yeah. Real? It's like leaving before you could actually have any real growth as a person, That's like me always cutting my hair because I'm scared to grow it long. I don't know why, like I feel like that's a physical manifestation of like my inability to stick with things long enough because you don't want to get hurt, One of my tragic flaws is the compulsion to add some sort of embellishment to every situation, a quality which has made people call me at times a liar, but I've almost never embellished in order to bring myself any advantage. It was rather that I had a strangulating fear of that cataclysmic change in the atmosphere the instant the flow of a conversation flagged. And even when I knew that it would later turn to my disadvantage, I frequently felt obliged to add, almost inadvertently, my word of embellishment out of a desire to please, born of my usual desperate mania for service. Guys, wow. I was literally flabbergasted when I wrote this. All I wrote was, like, so real. That's all I wrote. Like, because there was nothing to add or, like, analyze. It literally, I was just like, this is, like, copy-paste out of my brain. Really and truly. And the embellishment thing, real. I feel like we all like to embellish stories. Or just straight up lie. I mean, but the strangulating fear of the cataclysmic change in the atmosphere the instant the flow of a conversation flagged, or in other words, like the instant, like it got silent. Okay, sorry for the random change in quality, because my iPad storage is buttons, so we're on my phone now. Lots of fun. I was talking about the strangling fear of the cataclysmic change in the atmosphere, whatever, the conversation. Sort of just feeling this urge to always have to add and keep the conversation flowing because there's just this fear of like silence and not being able to like contribute anything. Also just out of a desire to please, born of my usual desperate mania for service. Like that is just so real. And I actually do like the idea of service and being able to give back, but if it's desperate, it's more of just people pleasing, really and truly. This was like this one was good. The unhappy peculiarity that the more I feared people, the more I was liked, and the more I was liked, the more I feared them. A process which eventually compelled me to run away from everybody. And that little like, I think it's called a chiasmus. It's like a literary thing where you kind of switch the words out, but they're the same. It's like the same thing, but you switch out the structure and the words. Yeah, that's called a chiasmus. I don't know why I know that. But the more I feared, the more I was liked. Well, obviously, the more you fear, the more you're desperate to people please, therefore you're more well liked. So I know where that comes from. And the more I was liked, the more I feared them. And I think that stems from more of like, the more someone liked you, you're more afraid that you're gonna let them down and disappoint them, I think. And obviously, running away, being avoidant, we know this. There's this part in the book where I just got to it, where he's kind of like getting a little philosophical, or at least trying to, with the belief that what is society but an individual? And I'm like, is, and I think of the idea of society as, obviously most of us do, as just like a group of people, but is society like a collective mind, like a hive mind thing? I don't really know what he was going for in this, but like maybe he was just, I think maybe he was treating society like an individual because he wanted to sort of create the separation between him and everybody else, and if he clumped it all into one individual, it was just it could create like this us versus them mentality, you know what I mean? So it could have been that. Ooh. I think someone's coming. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys, look at this part, look at this part. Look at this. Yeah, I went a little crazy yesterday with this book. I don't think I'm gonna read that whole chunk, but the part that I highlighted, I had been so terrorized by scientific statistics that whenever I left over a single grain of rice, whenever I blew my nose, I imagined that I was wasting mountains of rice, tons of paper, and I fell prey to a mood dark, as if I'd committed some terrible crime. Very me, as everything else mostly in this book, because I really do like to hyperfixate on every little thing I do and kind of trace all of the potential effects in my brain of this, like creating these like really advanced scenarios in my head where something terrible happens and feeling like it's actually like genuinely real because it actually triggers like an emotional response. Like I'm walking up the stairs and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm gonna fall down the stairs. Like, you know how many people fall down the stairs in a year? Like, you know when people die falling down the stairs? I'm like, oh my gosh. And like the car accident statistic, like you're more likely to get in an accident in your car than on a plane. And I'm like driving in my car and like I'll really just think of that, especially like I do it a lot in bed, like right before I'm gonna fall asleep. But I'm always, or even just like how much light we waste when someone accidentally leaves the lights on when they leave the house. Things like that. And I guess I just always scrutinize every little action and thinking of how much of something, food, light, water, I waste. And just tracing every little move because I feel this urge to be perfect at everything and never like needing to consume or need anything, like help, you know? I felt pity and contempt for the self until yesterday I'd accepted such hypothetical situations as eminently factual scientific truths and was terrified by them. So yeah, it's all this scrutinizing is just causing so much fear of something that really, I don't want to say doesn't matter, but one human, like one person just can't handle all of that stress. Like that's just not how it works. The ingrained habit of someone was in the bathroom. The ingrained habit of considering myself evil took command. Yeah, no, lately, the idea of like, am I really a good person? No. Because objectively, I don't commit crimes. I abide by the law. You know, I don't like harm anybody. I mostly don't harm myself. Like, I've done nothing of insane, you know what I mean? And yet it's still just this urge to think like I'm still like a horrible person. My uneasiness over having become an addict actually made me seek more of the drug. That is very, like, that is actually real. That's a real thing. It's a cycle. Yeah, near the end of the book, like, the addiction gets really, really bad. Ooh, I know this is questionable, but I relate to this so much. Yeah, this is basically him being fully consumed by his addiction and just wanting to die. And there's no chance now of recovery, no matter what sort of thing I do, no matter what I do, it's sure to be a failure. Just a final coating applied to my shame. That dream of going on bicycles to see a waterfall framed in summer leaves. It was not for the likes of me. All that can happen now is that one foul, humiliating sin will be piled on another, and my sufferings will become only more acute. Living itself is the source of sin. Yeah. I know I said I relate to this. It's just the fact that, like, when you have an addiction or really anything, every bad action just compiles and compiles and compiles and just makes the weight of it so unbearable that you literally just don't want to exist anymore at that point. And I'm kind of in a phase in my life, I don't want to say I don't like the word depression. I feel like it just feels like a label you want to put on a diagnostic. I feel like emotions are really complicated and they change, like, not even daily, but they can change hourly, because we're a living, breathing thing that's constantly being impacted by our environment. And I don't want to say, like, I haven't been, like, just in general, I haven't been, like, the happiest. Like, I come home from work or I come home from literally anything and I'm just like I feel almost dead, you know? And obviously I'm trying to make my way through and out of it by, you know, trying to make decisions that I really don't want to make. Like, do I quit my job? Do I not quit my job? You know, guys, I might quit my job. But at the same time, I'm also, like, money and schooling. Like, it's like this, I'm torn between this, I can't sit through another day of this job and I need to make money. And I always get the argument, it's like, well, you're always going to go through these hard things when you're older with internships and jobs. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. But I've sucked it up for so long now. Why should I have to keep sucking it up? It's literally sucking my happiness, you know? Oh, I like this. My unhappiness was the unhappiness of a person who could not say no. I had been intimidated by the fear that if I declined something offered to me, a yawning crevice would open between the other person's heart and myself, which could never be mended through all eternity. Literally just people pleaser, like an advanced way of saying you're a people pleaser, you know? This part's a little funny, and it's actually near the end of the book, before the epilogue, where instead of actually taking a ton of sleeping pills, he actually took a ton of laxatives, and he, you know, had a little accident or two. And it's so funny that something so stupid like this leads to this really, like, real philosophical, like, realization and revelation. Now I have neither happiness nor unhappiness. Everything passes. That is the one and only thing I have thought resembled a truth in the society of human beings, where I have dwelled up to now, as in a burning hell. Everything passes. Which is kind of funny to think about. This year I'm 27. My hair has become much grayer. Most people would take me for over 40. That's the last of the notebooks. So yeah, that is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. Guys, I think this book will be going in my top 1 this year. Like, unless I read something crazier, who knows, but really and truly, even these past years, like, this is one of the best books I've ever read. Maybe if you're not really into this style of, like, biographical plot movings, and it has a lot of really triggering topics, but I think that's what made me like it all the more, is that it's so brutally honest about the human experience and feeling like you just do not belong in this thing we call, like, society, you know? Yeah. Good book, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. My little reflections on this lovely masterpiece right here. Peace and love.